In that light, I ask if you have ever noticed how many times mountains are used to signify getting closer to God. Now, in both Buddhism and Hinduism, ascending a mountain serves as a metaphor for divine experiences, and it shows reverence that one has for deities and for sacred events. Mountains are also places where deities dwell. In Hinduism, the most powerful god, Shiva, resides on Mount Kailash. In Greek mythology, Mount Olympus was the home of all the gods. In Christianity, we know stories of people heading for the hills whenever something important is going to happen. Mountains are places where the divine manifests itself for humans to feel deeply the connection between themselves and their God. Moses received the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai. After the flood, the ark rested on Mount Ararat. Jesus ascended to heaven from the Mount of Olives. Mountains are spiritually important. Lastly, they are seen as life giving forces because they're always there. They don't transform their shape. We can always count on them. Some mountains are also homes to wildlife and varieties of plants, both of which provide sustenance for humans. Mountains are important. So, in our quest for spiritual maturity, find your mountaintop, the one that speaks to you, the one that means something to you, metaphorically, physically, spiritually, and start the climb. Take the first step, leave the mundane behind, rise above, take to the hills from whence cometh my help and my strength. And from that climb, let's learn to be mountains, not as insurmountable challenges for our families and friends, but as sources of strength, stability, and just maybe icons of deep spirituality. Blessings on all. Go outside, take a hike, sit by a waterfall, climb a mountain, listen to the birds, plant a garden, dance under the full moon. All decent ideas of how to enjoy the natural world. But some of them just aren't practical for some of my friends. Welcome to Calm in the Chaos Interfaith Center, where grounding ourselves in the natural world is not only advisable, we now find it critical to our mental and physical health. Now, I realize that many of us do not follow a religious path, but we do recognize that we are spiritual beings having a mortal experience on this planet. And I hope that you will stay with me to delve into some of the ways that we humans have crafted our religions with great significance placed on the natural world. When each religion was born, and yes, they all had to start somewhere, humans who birthed them were just trying to make sense of what they saw and experienced around themselves. The ancient Greeks, Romans, and Egyptians explained various natural phenomena by assigning a god or a goddess to them. Let's peek at some history. The Mayans, who settled in Mesoamerica around 350 BCE, had a pantheon of some 250 gods or deities. From agriculture to calendars, everything was explained by assigning a god to it. There was a rain god, a sun god, and so on. But the Mayans assigned a god also to every day of the year, and they believed that each day was influenced or governed by a certain deity. Mayans were an agricultural society, and consequently, many of their gods were based on the natural world. The Mayan calendar was in the forefront of our news when people thought that December 21st, 2012, was the Mayan prediction of the end of the world. It was misinterpreted because it actually signified the ending of the five great cycles of the Mayan calendar, not the destruction of the planet. The Egyptians had over 1,000 gods, beginning with Ra, the main overarching god. Egyptians believed greatly in the afterlife, putting a lot of value on how one lived life on earth, influencing one's afterlife chances of being at peace. We can see similarities in modern day religions. The Shinto religion of Japan includes over 1,000 goddesses and gods as well. With this, many deities, there is one assigned to just about every life quality, natural phenomenon, and animal known to us. When the gods and goddesses are depicted, they're often portrayed as human like forms, yet with elfin ears or wings or many arms, because the gods are known to be essences of spirit, not actual physical beings. The Greek gods and goddesses were depicted as physical, described as half man or half goat or some other partly human manifestation. Greek mythology also has over 1,000 gods and deities. Zeus is the king of the gods and the ruler of the sky. Greek gods and goddesses were attributed very human characteristics such as jealousy, anger, and they could fall in love, sometimes with one another and sometimes with a mortal. Their imperfections and humanesque qualities made them very relatable. The religion with the most gods is definitely Hinduism. A presenter in seminary said that there are as many gods in Hinduism as there are Hindus. A point to be made is that we can find divinity and sacredness in so many places that if we assign a goddess to be responsible for each of the places we see being sacred, we too might have thousands of deities. In the monotheistic religion of Christianity, one and only one God is responsible for everything. But what if there were a goddess of flowers, and a god of the sea, and a goddess of dogs, and so on? Now, I can easily see how religions are formed to make sense of what we experience and to attempt to explain the great mysteries to us. We humans need to believe something is larger than ourselves. We need to try to connect with what we don't understand or can't make sense of. And the way we have been drawn to over and over through the ages is to connect with the natural world. The natural world is where the mystery lives. It's where the gods connect with us by spinning us around the sun and by turning that solitary one little oval pumpkin seed into a plant that bears many more pumpkins with hundreds of new seeds inside. By creating religions, we're trying to comfort ourselves and give ourselves something to hang on to. And so, after the polytheistic religions were flourishing, along came the three religions that are most familiar to the Western world: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And they were born in that order. Because Christianity is the most widespread religion, it could be easy for Christians to forget that other ways of connecting to the spiritual world exist. And it might be very easy to forget that many faith paths existed before Christianity. After all, Christianity is only a couple thousand years old, and the planet has had humans on it for about 300,000 years. This information flies in the face of those who believe that God created the world in 7 days, with days being what we know as a trip around the sun. Several years ago, Forbes magazine printed an article by Ethan Siegel, a cosmic researcher. who developed a timeline of evolution to help us better understand how things came to be scientifically. He used a 360-day calendar as we know it and assigned significant events to dates and times during those 365 days. Each calendar day, he said, would represent about 38 million years, and a single human lifetime would last about 2/10 of a second in that 365-day year. Now, if all of this were true, and honestly, we can believe anything we want to believe. If we are surrounded by people who insist that it's right, it's easy to believe just about anything. If it is true, then it's not until approximately 11:48 p.m. on December 31st of that special calendar, the last few minutes of the final hour of the final day on the cosmic calendar, that humans as we know them existed. And then there's the teeny, teeny, tiny bit of that 300,000 years where Christianity existed. Now, some people may say, yes, we humans finally got it right. Jesus came to save humanity during those last teeny weeny seconds on that huge calendar. And then there's my friend Richard, who says Christianity is just one more mythology. Whatever your personal take on all of these religions and mythologies, I want to return to the mountaintop, the hike, the stargazing, the natural world, because a lot of the cosmologies that have been created by us place great significance on the natural world as a way to connect with the divine presence.